Hey babies, hey babies, hey babies. Hi everyone, hi everyone. Happy Tuesday, everybody. The rubber's meeting the road, Callow. There's leaks on what Terry and his camp want these days, and we're finally starting to get the trickle down answers that we've all been looking for. Why are we here? If two sides want to be together, why are we here? And now we're starting to get, now that he showed up and is signing autographs and getting his name chanted, suddenly the Commanders, I think, because I would assume that's where this is coming from, is telling some of the top insiders, oh, by the way, like this is kind of where he is. And this is the part I've been waiting for, Callow, the whole time. Because, I mean, how many times have we done this segment and I go, I don't know what he's asked for. And that matters to me. And so this is not a blank check, and this is not just give him anything he wants. I need to know what he wants. And if it's not unreasonable, I'll look at Adam Peters and go, what's up? And if it is, quote unquote, and we'll get to that, unreasonable, then now you know why we're sitting where we are right now.
Yeah, I mean, look, we're following the normal stairs here of like what happens next. And we've been saying it for a couple weeks. When the first number gets out there, what's that going to be? Well, the report yesterday from Schefter with McAfee was he wants significantly more than DK. I will say this, though. I kind of side-eyed that one because significantly more means what? And it's only $7 million to get to Chase, which he himself, Terry, said he doesn't want to reset the market. So I kind of side-eyed that. And then the report that I was really looking for was Rappaport a couple hours later went on NFL Network and said they see the DK deal. They want something similar because they're comparable. And that's where I was like, okay, because I thought the Schefter wording was like, whoa, that doesn't fall in line with even what Terry's saying. So we're starting to kind of close in on this number of what we think that he wants, I think.
Yes. So until, and maybe he'll go out there and talk again.
Right.
Maybe his agent will feel, or Terry will feel the necessity to clarify again, because I thought the press conference he did at the Eastern Motors shoot, like it was good that he spoke, but at the same time, I don't feel like he said or did anything that really moved the needle for me, because he had to, and at this point he was just kind of, this is not the right word for it, but meekly threatening to hold out, right? But he didn't say he was going to do that, which is why when he did the first few days, I was actually surprised. And I think, I don't want to speak for the team, but I think they were too, a little bit. Like, I expected the hold in from the get-go. That's what I expected to happen. And he kind of insinuated that, but did say, listen, there are things that I could do without saying it to escalate it. But he was trying to paint the picture of, I don't want to do that. I just want to be valued where I see myself. And I've put myself in a class of receivers. You could go look them up and figure it out who they are. And I don't want to reset the market. To which I said initially, I'm like, if he is walking in the door, his agent's walking in the door and asking for Jamar Chase money at 30 years old when he doesn't have Jamar Chase stats, then we're going to have a problem. And so I don't think that that's what he's talking about. And I agree with you. When Schefter said he wants significantly more, it felt a little bit like that might have been a bit of, and I'm not saying he did this on purpose, of an exaggeration, that he wants to be in and around where Metcalf is and maybe wants to top it because he believes his numbers are a little bit better than his, but he's not trying to get to 40. But it would make him, if they did this, it would make him the fourth highest paid wide receiver in the NFL, unless he's asking for more than CeeDee Lamb or more than Justin Jefferson, which would make him number 2. And again, if that's the case, I got to tell you, there is a stop down point. And I love Terry McLaurin. I love him, and want him to be here for the bulk of his career. But if that's what they're asking for, and this is the beginning of the conversation when they said there's a contract situation here. If that's what they're asking for, I knew there would be a problem. And I kind of am not siding with anybody here, but I get where Adam Peters is coming from. If he's saying we're not talking about that number, and if you can't see outside of that, then we are going to have a protracted negotiation. And here we are a week into camp and he's not there, or at least not practicing.
Yeah. I mean, look, if we're talking 32 million, that's the number that I thought would kind of be it. Like 32, 33 is the number that I thought originally. That's what gets this done. And I understand.
I got to tell you, I didn't even think it would go there, but I thought he might ask for it. That's what I thought.
Well, I mean, look, at the end of the day, his stats are comparable to DK. And in fact, he's more durable than DK. He hasn't missed a game in 4 years? He's played in 17 games, 3 years in a row, 4 years in a row, something like that. Like,
I agree with all of this. Yes.
But
I agree.
And I guess what I came to the conclusion on my show yesterday was at what point is 2 to 3 million worth all of this? Because I really think that's what we're talking about here. Like, if the team is going, we'll give you 29, 30 million, and his agent is going, we want 33 or 34. At what point do you both just come together and meet in the middle somewhere? Because that's what we're really talking about here. Like, unless the team is saying, we only want to give you 26 or 27, that's where I think this is way far off. But I'll say what I said before, too. You mentioned CeeDee Lamb there. Well, the difference between CeeDee Lamb and Justin Jefferson's only $1 million, and the difference between Jefferson and DK is only $2.5 million. So same thing here. Like, at what point does a total of $6 to $7 million over the course of the deal really break this down? I hope it doesn't, but it feels like it is a huge hang-up right now, which I find just a little ridiculous overall.
I'm not going to be counter to what Schefter or Rappaport are saying. And I don't think that this is probably the Commanders. It's a bit overdue that they said something or leaked something.
Correct. Yeah,
or just did something here.
Yes.
Because listen, I appreciate they have the tight ship, but you do have to use the media at times. And Terry, I think, purposefully showed up when all the fans were there, and you're going to hear everybody chant his name.
Media,
and right. And the media is all there, and Sports Center was there. And so there was a lot of focus. And I think, so I will give him and his agent credit. They chose the right day to show up and start to put a little public pressure on them. I know this genuinely. This team wants to get a deal done with him, but there is a line. You cannot just give anybody anything they want. I'd like them to pay me like Joe Buck, but they're not going to. And there gets to be a line at some point, and you have to come back to reality at some point. And the reality is he is going to make a lot of money. It is going to be amongst, a group of receivers that is the elite numbers. It's not going to be Jamar Chase. And I can't imagine it's going to be Justin Jefferson or CeeDee Lamb, but it's going to be below that, but not so far below. The point is, I don't think they're lowballing him. That's what I don't think is happening right now. I don't think they are. But there was one other thing that Schefter said, and he said, and this is what I heard when he showed up, was that they weren't really any closer to a deal. He just decided to show up, do the hold in, which is better, way better. I'm not complaining about it. It's a way better scenario than the hold out. It's an olive branch of, I do want to get this done with you. But Schefter said this, and this is what I had heard too Sunday, which was there still is a vast difference between what one side wants and what one side is willing to give. What vast means is I'm not sure. Does he want 35 million a year? Then the number's vast. Does he want 30 million a year? Then I have a hard time believing it's vast, but I guess it depends on what you define as vast. And until I know exactly what he's asking for, but we got some hints of it now through Rappaport and Schefter, that we got some hints of it now. We now know where he's at, and where he's at is DK Metcalf, period. And it might be a little higher than that, but it's at DK Metcalf, and that's what he wants. And it's 33 million a year. And I mean, I don't know whether they're going to go there. Maybe they'd be willing to come close to it on a very short-term deal. Maybe. If he wants a 3-4 year deal at that annual average number, then I think we, again, have a problem here because his age comes into play. DK Metcalf is 2 to 3 years younger than him. It does come into play here. So at least we're getting a better sense of what the impasse is. And I did kind of like the trickle down of, all right, let's just put out there then, this is what he's talking about, and let all the talking heads go, okay, wait a minute, is he Justin Jefferson? And then he gets to hear publicly, and the fans get to hear, well, wait a minute, like, you want the front office to not just do, I know how special he is, but you don't want your front office just do anything. We lived that with Dan Snyder forever. You can't just do anything. You have to be conscious of the cap. You have to be conscious of precedents. You have to be conscious of not overpaying people. So this is a conundrum of all conundrums. He wants to be here. They want him here. I don't know what the difference is. I don't think they're lowballing him. I get he's going to ask for the moon, but at some point you got to come back from the moon and have a conversation about it.
Yeah, I mean, look, I've come to this conclusion that if it's $33 million, are they probably going to be a little uncomfortable with that? Yeah, clearly, because they would have just gotten this done at this point. My argument here is I think Terry does have leverage here, though, is that he is saying, I am very durable. My college career wasn't like some of these other wide receivers where the tread isn't, as worn down. He's also, let's be frank here, they're not contenders without him. So you can't get rid of him this year. And him and his agent know that. They're not winning. This team does not win a Super Bowl without Terry McLaurin on the roster this year. So I think there's also some of this leverage point too, where they're going, this has got to be our line in the sand. Here it is. And I still will point out to this. He and his agent have got to be going to them going, who are you committed to? Who are you committed to on this roster? And it's like I said, Sam Cosmi. That's it. That's the only non-rookie they're really committed to. Look, whether you love it or you hate it, they do have the Commanders under a little bit more pressure than I think people realize, because they're going, fine, you want to roll out? You want to roll this team out without him? Go ahead. Go ahead and do that.
Yeah, I agree with everything you're saying. But I mean, I hate to do this. Everybody's doing it because it just happened that there was a deal that came down yesterday that really, I mean, I want to be very careful how I talk about this. Okay.
Yeah.
Because I think Courtland Sutton's a very good player, right? Obviously, I think obviously he's a very good player. And there's a massive similarity here, in this. They both at an extended age played this last season with a rookie quarterback and a very highly respected offensive mind running the offense for them. And if Jaden Daniels didn't win Rookie of the Year, Bo Nix had a possibility of doing it because of the season that he had with Sean Payton. And I'm very bullish about, we're talking about them in the summer, very bullish about them because of what they did a year ago. And if the Chiefs are just kind of coming back a little bit to earth now, they're the team I would be watching to move forward here. And they made a deal with Courtland Sutton. And I would be very careful about this because McLaurin has had 5 straight 1,000-yard seasons. Courtland Sutton's had 2 in his entire career, but they are the same age. And the stats from a year ago are almost identical, literally almost identical. I wrote them down. Sutton had 81 catches for 1,035 yards, 63 yards per game. He had 8 touchdowns. Terry had 5 more. He had 13 touchdowns. That was by far a franchise record. It also was by far his career high, 13 for the year. But the yards per game were almost on the money. 64 for Terry, 63 for Sutton. Terry had 82 catches. Sutton had 81. And there's just a lot of similarities here from the amount of targets that they got. I mean, they're almost identical. That's another thing that hasn't been talked about with the Terry thing. And again, I'm trying not to make a case against him because I love him and I don't want to do that. But if you actually go look at how many times he's targeted versus some of these other receivers that got these deals, specifically Chase, Lamb, Jefferson, they're targeted 175 times a year. He's targeted 115. Now, that's not his fault, but it is kind of telling that the ball goes the way of these other players way more often. And it's very telling because of what the teams think of the impact that player can have on a down-to-down basis, not a series-to-series basis. Sutton's numbers are identical from a year ago, not through the course of his career, but identical from a year ago. And they're the same age. He got 4 years, $92 million. So he got under $25 million a year, annual average value. And again, I want to be very careful here because to everything you said, I could see Adam Peters going, here's a 29-year-old who had an unbelievably productive season with a rookie quarterback who got the exact same stats with the exception of touchdowns, big deal, and he just got $24 million a year. What are we talking about right now?
Yeah, I mean, look, I'll hear that out. We also know that Courtland Sutton's not Terry McLaurin, though. Like,
I agree with that.
Terry's by far better. I would say Terry McLaurin's arguably a top 10 wide receiver, and we could argue higher than that, right? And so they're not the same. I'll hear you out on the age thing here, but also, like, they had to go play the Bills, and they got crushed in the playoffs, and they didn't win a playoff game. And this team did win 2 playoff games, and Terry was a big part in both of them. Like, not just
100%.
He didn't just open things up for De'Ami Brown. He made game-changing plays when it mattered most. Like, you and I talk about this when guys like that
iconic moment, turning that screen pass into a touchdown in Detroit.
Exactly. So, like, this is the other argument that I'll hear, though, is like, when the lights finally got really bright on Terry, like, he performed unlike anyone we've seen in a long time. I even I know they got killed in the Eagles game. He had his moments in the Eagles game too. And so I look at that, and also this does, to me, at least factor in a little bit more. Now, look, this actually is barking up the tree that I was spitting at you, like, right after the Super Bowl. Does an extra year at lower AAV, does that, is that something that McLaurin and his agent would actually like? Because I look at that and go, if Adam Peters goes, we want you here for a long time, you want to be here for a long time, would you take 28, 29, maybe even 30 million for 4 years? Is that something?
But we guarantee a big portion of it and give you a big fat signing bonus right now.
Exactly. That's what I have actually been arguing for the longest time is, it's a guys. We don't want you going anywhere, but we also want to be smart about this. And I 100% hear that out. But also, we could work something out here. And this is when I brought the argument to you of, does Peters just go to Josh Harris and say, hey, can we give him a fat signing bonus and then we guarantee him here for even longer? Because
I can tell you right now, Josh Harris will say yes to that part of it on the signing bonus part of it. But I'll also tell you this, from what I've heard, the ownership is staying out of this, and they're letting Adam do his job. But Adam is going to come to them at some point because there is going to be something that's going to happen here, of which he has to go to them and say, I want to cut him this check. And knowing what they've done so far and knowing what they think of this player, they're going to do it on his advice. But they need to let him do his job. And for all listen, it wouldn't have gotten to this point if the ownership stepped in, frankly. And I want to say this, that's a positive. Again, we have been down the road where people, like owners previously, got out of their lane and did things that ended up being very detrimental to the salary cap, to the locker room in many, many different ways. This ownership group is letting the general manager that they've entrusted cut a deal. It's turned into a very tough negotiation that I don't think anyone saw coming a few months ago, but it's turned into that. They're letting him do it. I agree with you. At some point, he's going to go to them and say, I need to cut Terry McLaurin a big check. And they're going to say how much. And they're not going to complain about it. And they're going to do it. And he's going to hopefully structure it in a way that works for them, because this number that Sutton got, that's a number they'd be happy to do. And I guarantee more than half of it, and hand him a humongous signing bonus check to make him happy and feel wanted. So, but they've got to get him to accept the number that's acceptable to them. And that's where we are.
What I would argue here is, like, I think 4 years, 120 million, you guarantee a good chunk of it. I don't know what the chunk would be, but 4 years, 120 million. I think you almost counter him to say, look, we'll guarantee you more longevity here. We just want the number to be what the number is. And then all of a sudden that number is going to be around 30 million for the next 4 years. And that's like whatever the guaranteed is, right? That's not even the full guarantee. So you could have them hit those bonuses and stuff like that along the way. I'm just saying, I've been saying this from the get-go. Why not offer him, or try to offer him, a lower AAV for a longer time, and he gets that long-term stability? So, and once again, we don't know what the negotiations have been, but that's been my take on it for a while now.
Yeah, I mean, listen, they could front load this because they have the cap space this year and next year to do it. So they can front load this, and then it needs to drop off big time. And he'd have to be okay with that for the last couple of years because it has to be cap manageable. I mean, like that's ultimately what has to happen here. I still have an issue with 4 years. I mean, but Denver just did it with Courtland Sutton. I think I want to be careful with anybody who's going into their 30s, especially at a skill position, and giving them a 4-year contract. It's just, I know what he's done. I know how durable he is. I trust he'll stay in shape. I trust he's going to, be the Terry McLaurin that I'm accustomed to. But age catches up to everybody, and you have to be careful here. And I don't think they want to set a precedent of doing anything that feels a little bit irrational. I don't think they want to buckle to public pressure when people are like, well, just give him what he wants. It's Terry. You can't do that. You can't do that and run the team the right way. Now knowing, and this makes a lot more sense now knowing that they were kind of asking for the moon. And, I get why this is taking so long now, because they clearly haven't stepped away from the idea that they should get the moon. And that's where I think we do need to have, this is like when Quinn said it the other day where he's like, and Peter said it, we need to have open, honest, and above board conversations. But some of it you're not going to like to hear. And if you I agree, we agree, you're a special player. We love you. We know what you mean to this team. Do we have to really sit here and tell you that Justin Jefferson's a different player than you? Do we have to have that conversation? Because I don't want to have that conversation, and I don't think anybody wants to have that conversation. And I think that's the holdup more than anything, is they want a number of players that are of a different caliber, who are younger. And I think that's been the whole thing the whole time. And now that it's kind of out there like this, hopefully they're negotiating through the media now. Clearly, Terry's showing up, shaking hands, kissing babies, doing what he's supposed to do. He's there now. It's very important. And the team went, while he's kissing all those babies, let me tell you about the donation he wants to the Terry pack. He wants a big one. Okay. So you all have a conversation now out loud about what he's actually seeking here. And I bet we're in the normal course of action. Now that we're here, unless his agent is insolent, I bet now that it's all just out there for everybody to deal with, they're going to come to terms with something by the end of the week. That's what I think is that. And that's a total just guess, because they've all just laid their cards on the table. And they just laid their cards on the table. They hadn't done it for months. They wouldn't say, what is it? What do you want? What's going on? The whole time I'm not concerned about this, because he wants to be here and they want him to be here. Turns out they were having the same button head conversation the whole time, and now both of them have laid their cards on the table. This will get things moving, and I'm just unless the representation has decided to take the Titanic down and say it's $34 million or bust a year, if he will not have a real conversation with him, I bet this gets worked out by the end of the week, now that we've heard about everything.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's if they back off of that. I don't know if that'll be the case, though. I thought, I watched the McAfee segment. I thought McAfee actually made at least a good point on this end. He goes, oh, you mean the Steelers traded for DK and handed him that contract, and the guy hadn't played a single down yet for that entire franchise? And I was kind of like, that's a really good point, because now I see it from probably Terry's camp a little bit of going, do you see what I've done here? Do you see my numbers with all 17 quarterbacks that have thrown me the ball? That's the other argument here that I know they're going to hate to hear, but I thought McAfee was not out of line by mentioning that. And I know you don't pay a guy today for what he did yesterday. I get it. You don't do that. But he's saying, I want around that same money, and I've been here for a while. Am I that outlandish in asking for that? And I think that's where, rubber's going to meet the road, because then at that point, if they really want to dig their heels in, they can ask for a trade. And if that happens, all hell breaks loose, essentially.
Yeah. I hope now that the cards are on the table, let's figure something out now. Right. Okay. I think both sides, this is going on too long, but after, not knowing what Terry wanted, I'm not trying to lay some blame here, but I get where the team is being careful about divvying out a contract that would have 30 plus million per year attached to it to somebody who will be 33 at the end of it. And if you can't live in that reality, then you're asking the GM to do something that he just knows is going to be detrimental to his team at some point in time. Like, this is like when maybe it's not. I don't want to use this wrong. I'm not even going to do it, because I was going to bring up when the Nats got Patrick Corbin, they knew that contract was going to suck. They knew
not like that.
It was going to suck at the end of it. In this case, I don't know that, for sure. And I trust who this guy is and what he'll be, but age always wins. And that's why I think they're just being careful about this whole thing. And we'll see how it plays out. But he's there. Cards are on the table. This has got to change. And I think, like, now that we're there and we're talking out loud, I think it will. And I have a feeling that both sides will both be a little uncomfortable and both be a little unhappy with whatever the result is, but that's actually the end of a very good negotiation. And in the end, all I want is to see Terry feeling like at the end of it, okay, I think they heard me. I didn't get everything I wanted, but I think they heard me. And I think the team wants to go, we do take care of our star players. And I think this is so on both sides. I think both sides are very motivated here, not for Terry to get the best deal ever, and for the Commanders to show the locker room and the community, when we have somebody that matters, we will take care of them. But I want everybody to hear this within reason. And that's why I've been on the team side about it. Like, within reason, I want to get this done, period.
Yeah, I mean, I do think what you mentioned at the beginning of taking care of our own is a massive storyline here that's not being talked about enough.
Yes.
Like, when you saw what happened on Sunday, where it's not just Jaden getting the Terry chants going, there's the video of Bobby Wagner pointing to him. Like, you have both your leaders on both sides of the ball saying, we love having this guy back. You know how this works in locker rooms. Like, if they were to somehow, and I'm talking both sides here, if both sides botch this and there's a divorce and he's on another team by the end of next month, by the end of August, that locker room is going to be like, well, if that guy doesn't get re-signed here, who does get re-signed? And
I agree.
And that's just something that is like, you can overcome that stuff, but that's a bad one because he's done all of the right things and he is still really productive. So once again, I hope cooler heads prevail on this.
Both sides have so much to lose on
correct.
This. Terry knows he should be here to play out the majority of the prime of his career, if not his entire career. We will be inducting him into the Ring of Fame if he does that. And hopefully he'll win a Super Bowl here, and he'll be the most, he will be one of the most, deserving players of a championship wearing that uniform in the history of the franchise if he does do that. And at the same time, the team cannot, in year 2, send a message that somebody who is this beloved and that productive is someone that they're going to be, so that they just are going to have the hardest negotiations with, that eventually the person just walks out the door. And so there's just a lot to lose for both of them. And I just really, really, really hope, now that cards are on the table, guys, sit down. Let's just figure this out. It's gone on long enough. We're practicing. It's killing Terry not to be out there. It's why he showed up, It's killing Quinn. He wants everybody in the room. He wants the culture to be great. It's killing everybody. And for Peters, I will say to you, though, I know it's killing everybody, but you can't just give anybody anything they want anytime. And I hear him out on all of that. And we need him to do his job, too. And it seems like, after hearing what I heard over the last 24 hours, what we all heard, he is doing his job, and we should be proud of him for doing that, honestly.
No, for sure. I will say this. I think you're more team, on the side of the team. I'm definitely more team Terry here. But what I will say, the benefit of all of this has been, this is what proper. This is
I've been careful because I don't want to sound like I'm against Terry. I love him, but
sure.
This is what I expected was going on. And when I suspected that was what was going on, I'm like, well, if I was Adam Peters, what would I do? And I don't know that I would do anything different than he's doing. And that's why I'm kind of if I have to pick sides, that's why I've been leaning that way.
I mean, I'm always team player. You know how I operate. But what I'll say is this is what a good organization looks like. And I'm happy about that. Don't get me wrong. I'm fine with the way that this is playing out because this is what good organizations do. They don't just hand these players the money. It's really funny though. Remember when he got his first extension. What was it? 3 years ago now? I think it was 3 years
Yeah.
ago. Where like Ron tried to play the like, oh, well, like we'd love to have him, but things happen. And everybody just screamed at him like, you don't know how to pick players. So you have to pay this guy.
Well,
whereas now,
and honestly too, like at the time, remember, his age mattered at the time.
Correct,
He was entering the prime of his career. The market had changed, and Ron begrudgingly gave him the money that he had to. And we all said, you can't let this guy walk out the door. Terry is 29 now. And it matters. It is a different story now. It matters.
Right. But at the same time, this was also, and I remember my argument too, was Ron, you don't know how to pick players. Like, so you have to keep the guys that actually can play. So like that was
tell him that.
Oh God. Worst player personnel guy we've ever had. But like, that was my argument.
Vinny? Oh Lord.
Vinny at least like guessed right a couple of times. Ron's last draft, who's left? Quan. That's it. The whole draft is gone. Every pick is gone.
Who else? Chris Rodriguez.
Okay, all right. Sorry, he got the late round pick running back right. My bad. Like, sorry, he got that one right. The 2 offensive linemen he drafted didn't play. Like, period. One of them didn't play in the league. And he was
his last 2
pick.
first-round picks barely lasted a couple of years on this team. Yeah.
So I'm just saying, Vinny would sometimes guess right and have guys that could play. Ron was like, he couldn't shoot a fish in a barrel. So, anyways, back to my original point of you had to pay Terry because you didn't know how to pick the replacement player for Terry. So that's what I'm getting at with the first time around. This time around, though, Adam Peters knows how to pick the players. And so this is what happens. When you know what you're doing, things are operating a little bit differently. To wrap up my long-winded point there.
All right, let me take a quick break. Bram wants to show us at 6:30, the Sports Capital. Welcome back. I feel like I want to do a segment called Things Ron Did Poorly, but I don't want to do it.
I could be here all day. All day.
It's too early in the season to go down memory lane here because yesterday the pads went on for the first time. So we had what was, the semblance of closer to a real football practice. It's always exciting when it happens because, the players just negotiated out all contact. So these training camp practices, it must kill the coaches. I mean, it just must kill them that they have to just tailor down everything because of all this. But whatever, they went on. And, so you hear a little bit of the popping. The tackling, there was no tackling. Like, they don't want anybody getting hurt. And they are going, I would say they're going 90% speed. I wouldn't even describe it as 100% speed. So we haven't seen football yet with the collisions. And Quinn's not going to have them Oklahoma drill each other. So, so let's wait till next week when we get to New England, and then we're going to see it for the first time and see where they are. A couple of things I will talk about, though, with the pads on, and Quinn brought this up. There are places where you're going to, see a lot more now that there's a lot more contact. You put the pads on, and he said 2 places: running back and the offensive and defensive lines, because you get to see them actually physically go at one another, and it's none of this like Ole, let people go or whatever it is. So one, on the running backs, our guy Bill continues to impress. I don't want to, listen, he's 7th round pick, so I don't want to get too excited about it. But, as far as first impressions go, you know it when you see it, and the guy kind of has it. Now, is he going to end up being really good? I don't know. Like, let's get him in some preseason games and then in some regular season games. But he's got the fluid body movements, this kind of lean, the long strides. He just kind of knows where the holes are. And so he continues to impress here. And I think that room and who plays a lot and who gets the lion's share of carries and what combinations they use of them is going to be one of the most curious things they do all summer. Like, who turns out to be the running backs that they use a lot during the season? I don't know. And I think in other years, I wouldn't believe this, but in this particular year with this particular group, I buy it. And I will tell you, he is standing out on the field.
No, by the way, have you settled in on Bill? Because I know you were worried about, saying the entire name. So that's the first.
The team put out a clip of him and wrote Bill.
Oh,
So
okay, all right. So you're
I
just
haven't decided if he's Dollar Bill or what, but he wants to be called Bill, so he's gonna be Bill. For a while there, I was just like, I'm going JCM immediately. Like
right.
I'll use his whole name once and then refer to him as JCM like a newspaper would. But he says his name is Bill. He wants to be called Bill, so he's gonna be Mr. Bill.
All right, fair enough. That was just my preliminary ask on him, because I know you were worried about that when they drafted him. When it comes
I will ask him though, before the first game, do you want me to call you that on the broadcast? Because when you see highlights of yourself, you're going to hear my voice. And if you don't want me to call you Bill, you might want to tell me that now.
Right. What I would say with him too is, look, this running game needed a shot in the arm in more ways than one. They've now got a new makeshift offensive line with some really good pieces. They also needed different options. Like you and I talked about it down the stretch last year. The Eckler injury was pretty detrimental to the run game in the long run, no pun intended there. But then also, Robinson just didn't look like himself. He had a couple moments in the Detroit game that I liked, but now I kind of just chalk that up to Detroit's, defense was so banged up. He was able to, break off a couple of runs then more than just the line of scrimmage. They needed another option here. And if this is the one that's starting to emerge and the other two get bumped back and then are in a lesser role but are a little bit more fresh, I'm okay with that. If this turns into a situation where you ride the hot hand, I'm all right with that, because
that feels like that's a distinct possibility this year that they'll be doing that.
Exactly. Like that's what I think the vibe is at this point, because we also saw, like, when Eckler was on his game, he looked like old school Eckler last year at times. Yes. I really liked his game. And then, like I said, he got hurt and then he had the killer turnover in the Eagles game. But
Eckler is amazing at the one cut. He is absolutely amazing, whether it's either as a running back or even a receiver. That first cut is so fast. He's really remarkable at it.
And so with them as a unit, like, I like them as a unit. And so, if it's going to be a ride in the hot hands situation scenario, I'm cool with it. It's fine with me.
On the offensive line stuff, here's why I am on this now. And this is not just seeing them in pads, but I've kind of felt this through the first week of camp. I felt this way actually in the spring. Trey Amos totally looks the part and looks like this guy's going to be a starter quickly. Like, just looks that way. I think Josh Connolly's going to need some time. It doesn't mean he won't start day one, for the team. But if I had to guess right now, and we're just a week into camp, I would guess Andrew Wiley would actually start at right tackle in week one. And this might be like Brandon Coleman, where it takes a little bit of time, and then eventually he's going to take over. And I don't want to get this twisted. I'm not down on him at all. What I see is someone who is going to be learning how to play against professional defensive ends. And, there are some moments here where, again, in these limited moments where you're seeing the contact, I think his play strength is a question right now. And that, I need to talk to the coaches, because it's not like he's small. Is this a technique thing? What are you seeing? Is he just taking on, listen, I can't imagine he's walking out there. It's Von Miller, Dietrich Wise, Dorrance Armstrong. I mean, the wealth of experience that he's facing every day. And then they throw Kinlaw on him, and Kinlaw looks like a monster, compared to everybody else on the field. I think there's a little bit of like welcome to NFL moments, I think, going on for him. They're very high on him, and I'm not down on him at all. Like, I've seen that, like, he looks a little more like a rookie, like we've gotten lucky with Trey Amos, Mike Sanderstill, Jaden Daniels. These guys never looked like rookies. At any point in time, they ever look like rookies. He does a little bit to me. So I'm going to watch that through the summer, but I am ready for that is a competition. And I think if it ends up being Wiley to start the season at right tackle, nobody should get too alarmed by the whole thing. It might just take a little more time for him. That's all.
Well, I would say this too, like, Wiley's a serviceable veteran too. I'm not like super down if he's the one that needs to start either, because I remember, if you go back to us last year, remember they were relying on Coleman to be the left tackle. And it was a little bit like, oh crap, he's hurt. Like, we haven't even seen him yet. They were relying on him before he had played a snap. This isn't the same scenario. I'm with you. Like, I'm calm here. And I always like to say this, especially with the lines, because you can't quite get the feel until, as Doc Walker would say, the bullets are live. I want to see what he does.
That's right.
I want to see what he does in these joint practices, because at that point, that's when you can actually really start, going hard.
Yes, I think we're going to start getting real answers next week in New England. I'll be very interested to see it. All right, let me take a quick break. Brad Watch the Show, ESPN 630 Sports Capital. All right, welcome back. I'm surprised that people aren't kind of going crazy about what Deion Sanders did a press conference about yesterday, which is he thought he almost died. Like, he ended up having cancer. Like, we had talked through the offseason. They came out, he has a health concern. That's how they described it. A health concern. They never said how serious it was. And they, it wasn't like, and I guess, his friends and family knew, but it didn't get out. It never got out that it was as serious as it was. And he did a press conference yesterday saying he had bladder cancer, had it removed, maybe not, but he had bladder cancer, but he had surgery, and he was working on a will. Like, he was very, very, very concerned. This comes off of, this is a serious thing too. Like, a couple of years ago, remember, he had toes removed because something was going on with his foot. So obviously Deion's had some very, very, very serious health issues in recent years. Listen, I think say what you want about the last few years with him. I think he's done an amazing job pumping up this program, becoming a huge spokesperson for the sport. Like, he brought attention to a place hadn't had it in a very, very, very long time. I think he's good for the sport, like a really, really good, positive. You don't have to agree with everything he says, but like really good for the sport. I was like, when he said this, I'm like, man, oh man, oh man, that would have been devastating, I think, for the world of sports if that went the wrong way. I think he's one of the icons all time across any sport ever.
This one, it's just like, I'm not here to slap him on the hand or something, but this is always something I point out to, especially if you're a coach at that level. Take care of yourself. Like, that's what I always like to point out. Like, a lot of these coaches, they just let things go because they've got this crazy schedule and they're doing all this stuff. What screamed to me yesterday when that came out was like, I'm glad he got it figured out. However, they do figure that out. I'm not aware of the treatment of that, but I just, my mindset always goes to football coaches of like, take care of yourself. You got to take care of yourself too, just like your players do. So,
real quick, because the news cycles have passed too much, and I just have to talk about this. I didn't do it yesterday. I mean, so Commanders heavy, but like Mike Locksley admitting at the Big Ten Media Days that he lost the locker room last year because it was based on NIL payments, and he was trying to figure out, who do you pay, the guys who've been there for you or the new guys who are walking in going, where's the check, pal? And which is basically a tacit admission of, we don't have money for everybody. Maybe nobody does, but we really don't. And he's going to have to figure out this new world. And he was one, I mean, I remember I had him on, a year and a half ago on my show, and he said, I almost quit because of all this stuff. He's like, every day, somebody walking into my office asking for something else. We've heard stories of people saying, I'm not playing in the bowl game unless you, like, I don't know about Maryland, but other places where they're like, I'm not playing the bowl game. Nick Saban quit because of this. Like, this is why he quit. He quit because he's just like, I can't, every week, every player's coming in here with a stick up asking for money from me. I can't do this every single week. Or they're just like, oh, you don't have any money? Fine, I transfer tomorrow. Like, the whole thing's nuts. But the way to put it, I lost the locker room over all of this. It was pretty big of him to admit something like that, to actually literally say that. And hopefully he has a better handle on it. But the reality is, by saying it is, unless they change the rules, Maryland better find a way to get a bigger piggy bank, or he's always going to have this problem over there.
You know how I feel about Locksley. I actually liked this from him, to just admit, I'm still trying to figure this out too, guys. And I'm okay with that. Sounds
like everybody is.
Yeah. And
he's not alone in that. This whole college football world is so different than what it used to be.
I forget which college basketball coach last year was like, if you want to quit, but like, somebody's there to take your spot to be the next head coach. So you can either try to figure this out or you can quit like some others. But he basically was like, some of us don't have that luxury of wanting to quit because we want to be in this position. And I actually like the honesty from Locksley, especially for a program like Maryland, for him to say, we had problems with NIL stuff in the locker room. Like, it's one thing to say Alabama's got those problems because some guys are getting paid differently, but for Maryland for him to say that about Maryland, I was actually okay with that. I thought it was really honest, and I was all right with it. And I like I said, you know how I feel about locks, but I thought this was fine, and it was okay to admit I'm still trying to learn this.
Listen, I've said this for years. The results just haven't been there, like overall. And like, it just is what it is. The results just haven't been there. I like Loxley. Everybody likes Loxley. He's a great recruiter, but like the results just aren't there. And I'm not asking him to be Ohio State, but it can't be 4-8. And it can't be 6-6 every year. And you can't tell, like, I get it. They went to a few bowls in a row and they had mayo dumped on them. But I mean, like, you're not really competing, at the highest level, and like, I don't know. Isn't that what we're all gunning for? And so, but at the same time, I appreciated the open honesty from him, that he's like, this is what it is. This is what I dealt with. And I did like that he, instead of most of them turned to him and they go, well, I don't have the money to do it. He took responsibility and said, I didn't handle what we had the right way. It wasn't enough. And everybody knows that. Go ask the jerk at Villanova about it. But at the same time, like, I did have money and I didn't handle what I had the right way. And it worked against me and it won't happen again. And I appreciate that from him.
Yeah, and like, look, at the end of the day, I've said this to you before that Maryland football and basketball are on different levels. Maryland football in, that conference, what is their ceiling? It's not high with who they have to play every single year. I've said this about Loxley. I might not be the biggest fan, but I also know what he's signing up for. And look, they're not going to have NIL money like a lot of the teams in that conference too. So it kind of just is what it is with Maryland right now too when it comes to football.
All right, everybody. I'm hoping this Terry thing's over with soon because I just want to get back to regularly scheduled programming. And we'll talk to you tomorrow. Pray watch the show, ESPN 630, the Sports Capital.